Hi everyone, I'm Alan Shelton. For those of you who know me, I am a leadership coach and consultant. Recently wrote a book called Awakened Leadership, which is doing very well. And I'm on the line today and interviewing Debbie Nicol. As we talk along, you'll find that we speak very informally to each other because we are already old friends. And so if the warmth and comfort of our conversation dismays you at all, remember we are not strangers, we're close friends, and so you will feel that as we go along. And Debbie has launched into a new project called Embers of the World. And within that project is a corporate segment that created a couple of books. And I have those books. I'm going to hold them up. You won't be able to tell what they are, but when you go to Debbie's website, you'll find them there. And I read them, and they fit in exactly what I'm up to, which is the use of storytelling and experience to bring people into leadership transformation. And I think Debbie has launched off on her own version of that. So Debbie, as we start, can you just sort of tell the crowd a little bit about yourself, how you came to be in this little world, and go ahead and move into question number 2, which is, what is the Embers of the World project, and how does the corporate Embers piece fit in?
Well, just, where do I start?
And if you miss anything, I'll give you the cues.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alan, and
okay.
hi everyone. It's great to know that you and I actually do align so much. Embers, what is it? Embers of the World. It's an initiative that started purely out of, I suppose you could say, my life experiences, similar to you, Alan, the stories that represent the experiences that we've had that provide both insights and even outsights as well. So mine, under the banner of Embers of the World, are stories that we tend to share, or I find come through when I'm sitting camp or fireside, purely because that turns off this thing that believes that it knows everything.
Yep.
And it knows the right versus wrong. So around that campfire, this is turned off, and that reality, that connection, that intuition, that other side it's always speaking to us, but in its wisdom, it believes that what it's hearing, it's not worth hearing, so it pushes it to one side.
Yeah.
So through all of this, I suppose you could say a career of experience, but also a career with some struggles along the way. The beautiful thing is there were so many lessons coming to me that I don't think I was really ready for when I was having those lessons. So they actually went into my untapped, unseen unconsciousness, if you call it that.
Sure.
And it was actually during the recession, which is a form of hardship, where my own business, everything that I present in Business in Motion, the strategy, the change, no one was actually willing to pay for. And I was actually saying, oh my God, what is going to happen from here?
Yeah.
And because I have done so much clearance on myself and so much connection, I heard the message, and it was like, wow, you've got so much to share. Why don't you write a book? And that was about, 4 years ago now. And it blossomed from one book to why am I writing this, to an entire change and leadership concept with a change model for the future, with the books, with the tools, with the concept, and with some training as well. So, yeah. So, I don't know, which question did that answer, Alan?
Yeah, well, I like that, because here's we're going to diverge immediately from the script that we've been given. Debbie and I both have social media gurus who are way smarter than we are, and they decided we were going to interview each other, and they'll be happy to know we made it a whole minute in before we changed their script. So here we go. So one of the concepts you talk about that I actually am very enamored with, and I want you to explain it, is this concept called self-leadership. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, great. You held up some books, and one was called Corporate Embers. But how can you lead others? Hey, there it is. How can you lead others until you can lead yourself? And really and truly, what is leadership? to me, it's about bringing out that personal best, being able to work through the struggle, being able to self-express, being able to find that inner purpose, being able to align. I always describe it as, it's like a backbone. When our backbone, all those little parts are in alignment, we walk effortlessly. Everything just falls into place. There's nothing that hurts. There is no effort. It's all there.
Yeah.
And self-leadership is about understanding that, for me, my life, my experience that I'm here to share is basically when things were hard, when there was struggle, it was because I was out of alignment. I was misaligned, and I didn't understand the beauty of reflection and connection. And self-leadership is being able to connect to that inner voice, to not be worried, not to think you've got the answers, to stop, look, listen, and feel. And when you do that, Alan, through my story, being in the tsunami, having the message given to me so many times that nothing or no one belongs to me, I was the expert, so I thought. But when the tsunami really and truly gave it to me and said, you know what, sweetheart, you're not.
Yeah. You're not in charge.
You've got an opportunity to say, you know what, it's time to change, time to find alternative ways to be able to contribute responsibly, which means to serve all equally. And get out of this entitlement mindset, this entitlement that says, who am I? I'm that title. And I'm that title means I'm entitled to your respect. No, let's move on. Yeah, it's time about connecting. It's time about reflecting. You know what it's about.
I do, yeah. One of the things that, one of the things you and I both do is that we write stories. And people often ask me, what do you write stories for? And I always tell them that when you tell a story, what you're hoping for is that someone can stand in your story and or you can stand in theirs. It doesn't really matter. It's a way to break down that barrier. And the stories look different, but they're actually the same. So for those who haven't looked at Debbie's book, the first thing that happens is that you start out with what I call this memory around the campfire. And what is so cool about this particular way that you approach it is the first thing you do is you start with a story. And that story allows the reader, which in this case was me, to stand in this place, to immediately, imagine yourself. It's presented around the campfire, and now we're talking about a story, and you can imagine yourself in this position. So the first invitation that you make to someone is you put a story out there, and you sort of say, okay, so live this story for a minute. Now, how do you feel about it? And I thought that was the magic of what you have here and what you've done in your Embers of the World, is to create an invitation for others to stand in stories that feel like their own but aren't. In other words, you're giving them particulars that aren't theirs, but you're asking them to stand in them, and they're going, oh, wait a minute, this is me. And so there's a beautiful transformational opportunity to start to see that, my story is your story and your story is my story. That when we tell them, they sound different, but that they're really not. They're the same. They're the stories of how you and I wrestle with life, and that wrestling match is the same. It's just
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the dress of the wrestle is, but there is a struggle, and it's time to stop the struggle, break through the struggle. Yep. You talk self-leadership, and if you do that for yourself, you're going to be able to facilitate that just as the stories are for others. You're able to facilitate that in the workplace. It's amazing how many people say to me, oh my God, Deb, as I'm reading about you, I'm thinking about me, and I'm going, yes, because it's got nothing to do with me. We're here for each other, and we're here to inspire each other.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, we fall into a trap. I know sometimes I go into places and they'll ask me about me, and I give them my credentials, right? And one leadership person like you one day said, can I give you a little insight? When you do that, my eyes roll back in my head and I want to faint off my chair, because what I really want from you is the little kid, the little 11-year-old boy with a skateboard under his arm who's out there to change the world. that boring accountant CPA guy with all that credentialing, that's a drag. And so that's why I think these stories are so awesome, because they bring the freshness of who you are into play. You know, those energetics of who we are. Your story about the tsunami, I mean, anybody who reads that, it's so compelling, because there you were. You know, I mean, it's like you get it. You're like going, oh, okay. You know, if you don't get that all hell's breaking loose and there's a huge wave heading your way, you're not reading very well. It's like you immediately are in that place going, okay. And I love that. I love when you talk about that piece of your life. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, that's great.
Well, tell me. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about Embers of the World and what the mission is, because we're gonna let you speak a little bit about that, and then if you want to just move into what's your plan for the coming months, because I know you're doing a lot with this project. So tell us about that. Tell us, what it's about and what you're doing.
Okay. I suppose in a nutshell, Embers of the World is really an alternative model to change. It's a model that's for the changing world. It's a system, it's a toolkit that says, you know what? Because the world is changing, we too have an opportunity to be a little different and achieve differing outcomes than the ones that we have been achieving for the last 200 years, to be able to bring about, first of all, responsibility, which is service to all equally, but also to get through this separateness into unity. Because when we co-create, when we lead from a different place, and that place is a place of service, a place of connectivity, and connectivity to ourselves and connectivity to others, it's going to naturally, going back to that word alignment, it's going to work for everyone and work for everything. And it's going to give us an opportunity to co-create as we go along. You know, gone are the days where one person can have a vision and everyone else has to jump on the bus.
Right.
And what happens then, as soon as the bus stops at the first stop, they all jump off again.
True.
Our job is to purely inspire, because people can see that coming with this new way of change, there's something in it for me. I become, I suppose you could say, more whole. Yeah. There's obviously degrees there. I become more connected. I discover more about myself. Mm-hmm. And when I discover more about myself, one of the milestones is trust. How are you ever going to be able to trust others until you trust yourself?
Yep.
You've seen yourself, Alan, in the workplace. Someone's got a great idea, but hey, I'm not going to share it because he might pinch my idea.
Exactly.
And we're coming from a place of separateness versus a place of unity, a place where we can all co-create and move together. So I suppose Embers as a model, it's a concept of fireplace or fireside transformation.
Great.
Through reflect, connect. That's your trust, your self-trust.
Yep.
Collaborate, innovate. That's where we end up, trusting others. And becoming. What does becoming mean? What you become, what I become, as long as it's something towards a positive contribution, rather than this, hey, I'm getting it all and he's suffering. You know, you can look at the political implications, go back to the Gaddafi, where there was service, absolute service in his leadership for one.
Yes, yeah, for him.
So I suppose it's an opportunity to be able to bring in change that is going to align to what the changing world is rewarding. The changing world, as I see, is rewarding authenticity. How many people cannot say to you who they are? They can only tell you what they do.
Yep.
Authenticity is where that reality shines through. That's the beginning of the connection. So the changing world wants authenticity. Look at those Wall Street guys.
Yeah.
Why are we in the mess we're in? Changing world absolutely wants trust. It rewards vulnerability. How many people do you see are willing to be vulnerable, are willing to say, I'm authentically who I am. I'm imperfect, but you know what? I can contribute. I don't have to be what someone else says I should be. Because when we're aligned with our reality and we're vulnerable to be able to share, but that's me, and not have to fit into somewhere else, we're internally validated. I lived a life of pain, Alan, because I was never good enough in everybody else's eyes.
Yep.
I sold myself to their measurement versus my own because I didn't believe their self-worth. And the more our leaders of today recognise the changing world wants us to recognise that we are who we are, and it's good to be who we are. Yeah?
Awesome.
And once we're there and we learn to clear all that rubbish around us, this intuition, this beautiful golden egg, it's talking to us every day. It's guiding us. It's giving us what we need. How many people don't even hear it?
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's...
Thank you. Thank you. Well, for all of those who are watching this, you now have a full-throated flavor of exactly what Debbie is up to. So that was as good as it could be done. We just sat back and had an experience of what this is all about. So tell me, I know you have a plan. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that and give us your website and where they can get a hold of this and amazing material, and and we'll let them know that piece, because I think we're supposed to do that.
Yeah, let's keep them happy. Okay, where are we going to from here? Embers, you can read more about it, www.embers, with an S, embersoftheworld.com. The ember comes from the little part of the flame that flicks off, and you think it's gone, but it's that lesson that bubbles up when you're ready for it. So embersoftheworld.com. It gives you everything, the books, there's samples of the books, so if you're interested in looking at the samples before you decide to maybe connect with the books, and the books, we're calling them the reflection tools and the connection tools, all there for you. Everything's transparent, it's all there, no secrets with Embers at all. The Embers the website's there, the social media is underway, and the big thing that is the next perhaps stage is I've made a dedicated commitment. Embers is not for everyone, because not everyone is ready for this.
Correct.
What I'm looking for at the moment and working towards with the whole year marketing plan, if you take the leaders of the world, the top 2% is what I'm calling evolved leaders.
Mm-hmm.
They're guys who get it. What does get it mean? They understand the power of connectivity to yourself, the power of balance between the analytical and the intuitive. Mm-hmm. They understand in business what is the benefits of reflection, stop, look, listen and feel. Let's stop being reactive. These are the guys we see who have a following, who always seem to have success wherever they go, and that doesn't necessarily mean financial success. They've got people who are buying into their dreams, so even when they go, the dream is still alive. These are what I call the evolved leaders, and many of those top 2%, there's not many of them, but many of those top 2%, they get it, but their job is to bring their senior teams with them, and perhaps they're not sure how to do that. So Embers offers that top 2% these practical tools as a starting kit, and the immersion, some people call it workshop, but the immersion initiative where we go in head first, we dive, that leader and his leadership team, and we come out 2 to 3 days later with the leadership team owning the business as much as that guy who used to be the leader. Now we're all leaders and we're all connecting to it. So what I'm really looking to serve at the moment is that top 2%, and if you bring it down to the top 10%, which is adding an additional 8%, I'm calling those the evolving leaders.
What we'll do is everybody has heard all of what you've had to say. You know, you and I live in the same world, so we're actually doing the same thing from our own standpoint. So you'll be able to see this interview, and all of the access information will also be on my website. So which is www.alansheltonverydifficult.com. So for those of you who access Debbie through Awakened Leadership, you'll do it that way, and for those who access me through Debbie, you'll do it that way, because we'll be living on each other's websites anyway, because we're sort of the same thing, I think. So and so that's where we come from. So hey, thanks Debbie for today. It's been awesome. I really appreciate you letting us I don't know, intrude on your time and pick your brain and get everything you have to offer. It's been really cool.
Yeah, no intrusion, my dear. It's just purely the two of us. With others, we're powering. Yeah.
All right. So I'll end it here. Thank you, everybody.
See you later. Bye.